The title is being brought over to be recorded right now. The buyer's funds are at the title company in Arizona, and they're preparing the wire right now.
Merry Christmas.
That was a Santa Claus.
I wanted to bring this on, or put this on the agenda today for the allocation of the retirement fund annual required contribution for 2014. We've been looking at these numbers now for a long time. These are I think memorized by most of us around here. The annual required contribution for 2014 is $4,062,995. Since we have a budget of $500,000 for that ARC as at least a good faith contribution that was going to be put in for 2014, I'm recommending, Jay Wenger is recommending, I'm sure Bob is recommending that that ARC be paid in by the end of this year, so it can be on the 2014 books, and so that the rating agencies that we're going to be going back to for a hopeful restoration of our bond rating, so that they can see that, and it's easily demonstrated that this is the first step toward restoring the pension fund, getting it to a healthier place, somewhere hopefully in the 80% funded. With the proceeds of Cedar Haven, the sale of Cedar Haven, that money will be in hand, and from that $25.5 million proceeds, I would recommend that you allocate $4,062,995 toward the annual required contribution in 2014. And if you take that motion today, then that will give Treasurer and the Controller the ability to move that money in the next few days and make it count. $1.8 million in deposits from CHR, which we've been just holding aside. That's not in the numbers that she's reporting. We're just holding that aside. But then that counts toward the purchase. So that's toward the $25.5 million. The wire today will be $23.3 million. So no, we don't have the $4 million until that wire comes in. It's contingent upon that, on the sale of proceeds, But as I said a few minutes ago, as we sit here, those are in transit, and that'll be the first step in restoring the pension fund. The remainder of those sale proceeds are yet to be determined by you.
I'd like to make a motion that we, subject to deposit of funds, honor the 2014 ARC and pay it in full.
I'll second it.
Hearing that it's subject to deposit of funds, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
You're asking what's the total number?
Right.
I believe it's about $30 million.
I think for clarification, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I don't think I am, the ARC for 2015 is part of our budget, so that's not dependent upon the Cedar Haven sale to pay that.
It is, because if we wouldn't have the Cedar Haven sale, you would have to alter the millage rate or have some other form of income.
Or not make the
or
budget.
Or not make the budget, yeah.
It's a third option.
Because there's nothing in reserves to draw from.
So it's back to the bottom line cost of this sale. And Commissioner Litz, you presented the thoughts on that in a blog post and subsequently. And I think Commissioner Phillips and Commissioner Ames, you have a different view on kind of what this transaction costs of Cedar Haven are. And I kind of want to flesh that out a little bit today. So I'll start with you, Commissioner Litz. Things like vacation time, the Honeywell contract, those are costs that you think should legitimately be added to this cost of the sale.
Correct.
Can you explain why that is? Because I think people see it differently.
Well, vacation is not all taken at one time, and it's coming out of this year's budget, which who knows when it would have been taken. The Honeywell contract has to be paid back, and it's going to have to be recalculated to take out everything Cedar Haven, because there's an obligation on that bond, and if we don't have the facility as collateral, I don't know that they're going to let us continue without paying that off.
How do you respond to the argument that if we're getting money from those improvements and the cost final sale price, that it's a little bit of one pocket up.
No one even talked about the Honeywell audit until I brought it up, which was after all the bids were in. And, you know, at that point, then it became evident that we do have an obligation. You know, they walked through, they made the offer, and the offer is what it is.
Would either of you care to comment on how you see the final cost of this transaction? If you have a bottom line number, or what cost should be included and what shouldn't be?
Well, I shared Commissioner Litz and with Commissioner Phillips and Jamie, and I also sent a copy to you of itemized item against item and with what Commissioner Litz said. And there's no question that a transaction like this costs money. If you sell your home, there are costs associated with that, the real estate fees, the legal fees, all of those things. But it certainly is a stretch to take vacation time, and initially she said sick leave, which we didn't pay for any accrued sick leave. But to take those kind of costs that you owe these people and say, well, this isn't a direct cost related to the sale of Cedar Haven. And I think, as I said in my analogy, if you put a new kitchen in your home and then you put your home up for sale, your hope is to recoup some of those costs in the transaction. And I think it's pretty apparent, because all of these estimates of the value of Cedar Haven came in, I think, around 17, 19 million when we got the reports from all the folks. And in the end, the bid was 25.5 million. So certainly when they did particularly CHR and the other bidder, when they did their final tour, CHR was even willing to raise his bid a little bit. And they saw new boilers and things like that in Cedar Haven. That certainly contributed to the value and made them more interested in placing a higher bid. And, you know, I got the feeling, as I read Commissioner Litz's list, that it was just padded to take away from this whole process and what it was going to mean to the county. And a really flagrant example is $10,000 to send COBRA notices to 400 employees. I mean, that is a significant stretch. That works out to $25 a person to send a letter. And even if you have to send, and I think there are some requirements under COBRA to send additional letters, but even at that, it's, you know, just totally inflated. So, all I want to do is get a fair number out there, and I would be the first to admit that there are going to be direct associated costs. But let's not throw into that mix things that we already owe and we would have to pay, and let's keep the numbers in a reasonable line with what of reality.
My only comment would be to be part of the 2 meetings ago when I asked Commissioner Litz to document what $3 million spent to date that was unbudgeted on this settlement, if she could quantify that. And I've yet to receive that, and I've asked for, I gave a clarification on the question because I got that litany of things as well as everyone else, but that didn't answer my question that I thought was very, I'll say, to the public, it was a number that really was not sound. I was having a hard time getting to 100,000 at that point, not 3 million. So I thought that was an unfortunate representation to make to the public, that we had already spent unbudgeted and so on. So I've not gotten an answer to that question yet. That was made public in your publication, so I'm still waiting.
When you do the COBRA notices, you must also calculate the salary of the person preparing them. And I think that they would not have had to do that. We've heard all the extra work on our staff. So therefore, I think that it is a valid estimate of what it really costs to send those out. And I heard questions from John and the public, and I heard Bob's question about what are the real expenses in settling Cedar Haven, and I had not seen any list, and I had been keeping my personal list, and I shared that. That's as simple as that. I don't think that, anybody's, no matter what I say, somebody's going to argue with something. So I presented it all in one lump sum, and people can decide for themselves. It's that simple. They can pull out what they want to. I just did as comprehensive as a list as I could possibly do. It wasn't my job to do it, but it's something that I thought needed done because we needed to know what it really costs. Other counties ask, well, what's it costing? For many reasons, I decided to start keeping a list, and I shared my list. That's all I did.
An audit of the actual, expenditures that went into the sale, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think so. A specific audit, looking at how the money was spent and so on. I mean, the only thing we did differently was set up a dedicated account number, expense line item number to attribute these to. So when Dennis has an expense or I have an expense, or if there's something related to the sale of it, it goes to that account.
Probably sounds simplistic, but when an individual sells a property or something and they're looking at what their profit is and they look at all the expenses to keep it down, to keep the tax implications lower. So I guess there's no real parallel to that
No,
government
we don't
transaction.
We aren't looking to, book losses to offset gains or anything like that. So
We may never agree on what it actually costs to send those COBRA letters out, whether it's the time that it takes to put together the letter, which I think in probably a day they would have the people's names and send the COBRA letters out, and the paper and the duplicating costs, the printing costs to send them out. But to speculate that we're going to spend a fourth of someone's annual salary to send out COBRA letters, we'll never agree on that. So the exact things that the treasurer paid down the road, John, or Commissioner Litz will probably do it for us.
I want to thank Commissioner Ames for seeing this process through. It was a very difficult process for everyone, and I applaud his support on it, because I think very often public officials are accused of sidestepping issues such as this. We've addressed it, so I want to thank Commissioner Ames for being such a good partner in that effort. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I would just like to comment on the budget process. And to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting a no vote on the budget, but I was going to compliment everyone, including my two colleagues, Jamie and the Comptroller's Office, for the job that was done on this budget. We know it was a difficult process, and the Cedar Haven sale and so on was hanging over our head, and I just think that it is a compliment to the fact that when we do work together, we can accomplish good things, and I don't want to leave anyone out of that thank you and the contribution that they made to the process. So.
much of what's coming out are employees that are withdrawing from the pension fund.
Correct,
So
yes.
while it's coming out once.
One time.
And
yes.
then
This will
the-
be our big hit.
And then the pension fund's obligation to those employees goes away, which impacts future calculations on the annual required contributions.
Yes.
So really,
Yes.
the pool of people in there, the more withdrawals that are made, the pool of people in the pension fund is reduced. So
Yeah, it's
it's-
just that it's gonna go in and
Yeah,
it's gonna come out.
coincidental
right
that the
away.
same month we're making the ARC is the biggest month probably that the pension fund has ever seen in
And
withdrawals.
still have to make withdrawals every month because there's less people paying in, but
Addresses, I know, a concern that many of you have expressed in the past, which is what happens if you make a significant contribution. Now you've yet to make that very large contribution, but this is a large one. You make a large contribution, put it into the market, and then the market, loses it potentially.